Hi everyone. On this evening's podcast, we're joined by Ronan Kiernan and Colin Birdie from Carrickmacross. Guys, thanks a million for coming on. How is everyone?
Yeah, good, yeah. Thank God. What else would you be at?
I love talking rounders.
Oh, yeah.
So, lads, we're just going to have a bit of a chat just on the Carrickmacross story. You know, you have been very successful over the short number of years that you have been involved, and just maybe look at why you have been so successful as opposed to maybe other clubs that are going probably the same amount of time or maybe a bit longer. Why has it worked for you and hasn't worked for others? But to get into it, I know you started off. You probably have a good basis that a lot of players would have played in community games back in the 80s. And then, in the mid 2010s, was 2014, 2015, maybe, you just decided to set up a GAA Rounders club. So maybe just tell us why you set up the club first.
Probably down, probably a bit of a whim, really. A brother of mine, Colin, mentioned it to me at the time, and I went and looked it up, and it seemed it was active at senior level, because it was always, even back when Colin would have been managing juvenile teams in the late 90s and that, there was talk that we'd always do it, and it never really got to the point where somebody said, right, we're gonna go and do this and start up a senior team. And we got a few fellas rallied together. Not all of them actually had played before. In fact, most of them didn't, to be honest with you. We had a few lads like myself, Barry Lamb, Colin Kiernan, obviously. We just kind of advertised it a bit and said, look, I think it was and kind of grew a bit of legs at the start, and I'd say we trialed a lot of players before we actually said, yeah, we probably have enough. And it wasn't really like a trial. It's a very inclusive game, but with all these new things, you get people in and they drop off and that. And to be honest, at the start, it was probably a bit of a struggle to get lads to go, but it was certainly something I'm glad we took on at the time.
And what would you say was the biggest, stumbling block at the start, to get going?
Probably getting lads to get their head round it. You could be playing at 10 o'clock in Port Leash on a Saturday or a Sunday. Look, it's probably improved a lot since then. We're a bit more common sense now, or them things don't happen. But at the time, that was a difficult. We played a lot of games away from home at the time. I remember that being a factor of a lot of lads saying, I'm not going to be around every Sunday morning. Leaving Carrick at 8 or 9 o'clock, you're not going to get many fellas to do that. That was probably a bit of a stumbling block. Apart from that, though, when you're looking for people to get involved around it, you can't go and look for a fella who's maybe playing hurling or football or that, and you probably miss the fact that they're always going to be tied up at the weekend. So we had to do a bit of outside thinking with that. Fellas that are maybe retired from playing football, or maybe fellas that don't play anything. We have a good couple of examples of that are still playing, and they'd be starters in our team now. Just got to like it and worked really hard at it and did really well for us. And they're probably a mainstay name now that most people know.
And do you feel that, having, I know you mentioned, maybe 4 or 5 names there, people that kind of were your core group at the start, did having them there make a big difference when you were starting off, that, when you brought in these other players that hadn't played before, that, not only, maybe you had a manager or something, but, you had players that could nearly coach on the pitch, as opposed to having 9 people who were learning from scratch on the pitch?
Yeah, it certainly had. There's a few of us in the room. We reiterate for this column that when you bring a new group of people in, you have to have a way of managing it. So we didn't have that, to be honest with you. We really didn't. Probably a bit all over the place at the start. But I suppose it was a learning curve for a lot of us. We were trying to coach and trying to stick it. And then the first couple of years, I put that down to the making of our team, because we were all in it together. We were all learning. We were all learning something new every week. Got a lot of hammering at the start, like there's no getting away from that. But I think that stood to us as we went on. To be honest with you, we went straight into the senior championship, and they were coming up against good teams like Keith, Langton, and McCullen, Greenhead. They were all great teams, and after a while we started to hold our own. We probably started to train a lot harder than. Wouldn't be afraid to say this. We probably trained harder than anybody. At one stage, I think we were training 3 nights a week. Probably a lot of the lads were saying, look, we don't want to be going there every weekend and getting hammered. So we got our act together, to be honest with you. We've done a lot of the basics. And I think because we were doing that, anyone who was joining in the meantime, they could kind of slot straight in because it was all basic stuff that we were coaching really.
So lads, you have obviously, been extremely successful, after setting up in 2015. I think I have here that, he's made a final in 2016, 2017, a semi-final in 2019. Famously, he's brought the cup back in 2020 and made the final again in 2021. I mean, that's massive success for a new team. Like, what's the secret?
Yeah, well, I suppose there, as Ronan was saying earlier on, the boys, everybody bought into it together. Like, it was a case of some of the boys had never played before, then some of us had played under Brother Gregory, and as I'd be saying here at home, oh jeez, yeah, I'd love to go, I'd love to play, yeah, I'll be there. And in fairness, I have to say, Ronan, it'd be constantly on to. I'm one of maybe 30 boys that Ronan would be constantly on to, but I suppose in 2019, Barry Lamb was away in holidays, whatever, and he rang me. He said he was stuck for players, and I said, "Jesus, sure, this is a chance here now. I'll go for the crack." Back to me, under 15s, under 13s community games. But like everyone, when I was there, like even though I wouldn't have known too many of the boys, just to see them, I wouldn't know them from playing. They were all on the same page, you know what I mean? And that, especially, I think there, we'll say from 2019, where we made it to the semi-finals there, and it was just one of them games. Maybe some of the games I've been playing, if you got 10 runs, you'd win the game. Like, sure, it was 31-32 that semi-final in 2019. And I think then from that on, then to the boys for 2020, like early on, I know there was that kind of into the season, then it was a bit of COVID or whatever, but early on, the boys, we were on for training 3 nights a week. Like coming to the semi-final then when we played Cavan, we were probably actually training 3 nights a week, I think, Ronan, weren't we? Like, not that we were going out and saying, now we go out and do a half now. We were full tilt for 3 nights a week.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I will say this, and because I don't want to be conscious of putting anyone that has a new team off. Like, at the same time, like, lads were showing up for a bit of crack. It was an outlet. Like, there's no doubt about that. But look, we had a core group of lads who had been playing maybe from 2015, and look, to be straight up, I was sick of getting beat. I mean, the semi-final was probably starting to eat away at a few of us. We were saying, look, we're going to have to get our act together here and win one of these 7 in semi-finals, because we'd been to the final in 2016, and we ran the heat really close in that game. But we probably didn't have enough experience to see it out, to be honest. But if you're asking what the secret of it is, I think it's that core group of players. If every club has that 6, 7, 8 lads all the time, I think it definitely helps to mould the brand of the way you play. Like, I'd be straight up and say, like, the 5 fellas we'd have in the square would be probably the same 5 fellas we had in 2015. That's a big plus, because everybody knows what everybody's doing, and them fellas get better. Believe me, well, I think they do anyway as time goes on. And I don't think we were doing anything training wise that anybody else wasn't doing. It's just that we were probably hungry, I'd say, as well for that. I think every new club, you need that little bit of success maybe to drive it on a bit, and even if that's getting to a semi-final, that's a big thing. A big thing for any new club.
Yeah, so like I know what you're saying, you feel like you weren't doing anything different than anyone else, but do you think that it's kind of different because you went in with the mentality, even though you were only around a couple of years, you were there to try and win a senior championship. You weren't thinking, oh, we're coming in, we're going to give it a go for a few years, see where we're at. Do you think that, maybe, the teams you're competing against, like say, Limekiln and the Heat, back in 2016, 2017, like that's who you're comparing yourself to, that you're like, right, we need to do what they're doing. That's just what everyone does. Whereas some newer clubs, maybe don't come in with that mentality. So they are doing something slightly different to you.
Our mentality probably would have been, looking, we had a young enough group, I suppose, as well. Not saying that any other club didn't, but we probably had an average, like everybody was under 30, we'll say. And I think that helped as well, because lads some of them weren't married and we didn't have kids and stuff like that at the time, and we had time. That was a big plus. We had time to probably try and perfect, and we did. I don't mean this to sound big-headed, but we had the fielding game. We definitely had that. We probably struggled a lot with batting, maybe even still do, but I think that was our struggle early on, was probably batting. We as well, we were lucky that we had a fella like Patrick Dermot and mature stuff. It was just, for me, he probably opened everyone's eyes to, if you have a fella like that, you can do harm. And then we had Owen outfield, which they were two big players to have in any team, and so instantly everybody knew about them straight away because they were that good, and we were probably lucky in that respect we had them fellas.
So, to move on, say, to 2020, because obviously that's the crowning achievement of your club to date. Your first senior title. It's probably hard to ever going to be able to match how that felt. But what was different in 2020? Not looking at COVID, but in your team, what was really different to the previous years? It was your third final. Was there this feeling of it's now or never, or did you just feel like we're just in a better place?
I think just like as you're saying there, Ronan, Paddy was a massive change there, I would say, at shortstop. We were playing him inside the square, and with Oran outfield, I think it gives the team then, it gives yourself the belief that no matter what you're up against, that when we get the team in batting, we're going to have them out. And like as Ronan had said there, that the five inside the square will say they weren't nearly playing always together. So if Justin caught the ball at third base or it ran down to my third, he was pinging Frank. Frank was ready for the ball before Justin even picked it up. And like Justin, just the size of him, I suppose, there too, when boys look at him, he can hit from third to first, no bother. And then, like, I suppose a lot of some of our trainings, the simple things, like new teams coming in might say, this is too much hassle, or how are we going to do this? So the simple things at night at training, just base work, pucking the ball out, catching it, putting it into a base. Maybe we'd have some runners running base and stuff like that there. But every player in 2020, every player there played for each other, like, in fairness, like they were phenomenal together, like.
And a big plus as well, just I forgot to mention this, but in 2019, I remember I went to Francis Walsh, and they said Francie probably would have took a lot of juvenile teams up over the years. And look, when we set up, like, he did want to come into it, but he had newborn children and stuff. He just didn't have the time, but he did come in, and I think that's what we lacked as well. That little bit of, maybe, I wouldn't say full management, but I'd say he brought a calmness to the whole thing, where he could manage us, because
that's for me, like.
No, it's not, and it's not for anything. Like, we were doing that ourselves, a couple of us, and it was a nightmare, to be honest. It was like there was never any aggro over picking a team and stuff like that. It wasn't like that, but it didn't have a natural flow to it, because you were answerable to nobody. That's the bare fact of it. And even Bodie, you'll reiterate to this. Like, when Francie came in, we had a regime of things, and it probably, you were making training count that little bit more, because we had somebody over us for a change, and it definitely was a game changer for me anyway. It took a lot of pressure off me as well, because obviously I had set the club up and different things, and he was trying to get fellas in and that. So he took a lot of pressure off me, and Colin as well. They took an awful pressure off me, and it allowed them to manage the team without me having to worry about all that other stuff before a game or whether it was filling out forms. I didn't have to do any of that anymore. And I think it was a big game changer for us. I know I said that already, but it was a big, massive change in point in us in 2019 even.
Yeah, like even, I suppose when you say that there too, and Francie would have had a lot of input with any of the boys that played community games. That's playing on the team even there now. Francie probably had them. You know, when you were saying that, like they knew his style, and like even in saying that too, like Francie knew the winning mentality that we had, in fairness. Like I suppose that's one of the things you have to look at. There's you go out, I suppose I was kind of going back there, get out of the house the weekends, a bit of crack there, take the kids with me, go to a game, have a bit of fun. Like rounders, in fairness, it's great fun. Like it is. Like even I know it's like if you're playing a wee bit of five-a-side, you're going for a bit of crack. When you get playing, it gets a wee bit more serious. Yeah, surely, but it's great fun. Like you know, like you don't even have to play any other sport. Like there is some people that would say, Ronan and have some of the boys there maybe from the handball club that when we were stuck for players in early 2019, like you'd be saying that some of the boys stepped in, they could throw the ball and all that. They mightn't have known the rules, but like we played Glenbarrentown in Screen, first game of 2019, and I think we had 3 boys there that never played before in their lives. Like, do you know, like, and you're saying to yourself, but like they could throw the ball. It wasn't now. It was a wee bit maybe you wanted to win surely, but at the same time, it was a bit of crack, and I think the boys enjoyed it. Like you know.
So you know, to move on then to 2021, I know you had a disappointing results in the final, but you know, to get to the final again was still a massive achievement. And you know, a lot of people say, you know, it's harder to retain your title than to win it for the first time, you know, it be it down to hunger or whatever. Did you feel that, you know, any of that hunger had kind of gone out of the team? I know obviously, you know, you were missing a few players, but had that hunger kind of gone a little bit because you had done it, you had won it, or was the champions, you know, mantle kind of like weighing a bit heavy on the team?
I'd have to say I don't think so. I think just without making excuses, just the year we had with injuries, Jesus, I think some of the simplest wee drills we were doing at training, Adrian broke his collarbone, one of the lads broke his fingers, 2 of the lads actually broke their fingers, like, and you'd be saying to yourself, Jesus, what else is going to happen here? Now look at, not making excuses of that, we had enough players, and in fairness, probably maybe going into the final, didn't believe in ourselves enough, I think now. Like, just, it was a freaky kind of a year, and as you're saying there, the retaining the title is probably the hardest thing to do, and you'd be saying to yourself, right, well look, we had got ourselves, like, we rode our luck a lot at the time now to get in there, and even, I suppose, the semi-final again, that we played the Heat up in Tymon Park there, and we were atrocious. Like we were bet off the park. But the only thing we said coming in off that, we said, look at that game. It didn't really actually matter then because we were still qualified for the semis. So when we played the Heat in the semi-finals, then we changed the team about completely. Like even though we still only had the same players, we changed the team completely. I think we threw them off a wee bit, but the way we set up. And lucky enough, it just worked in our favour, and we were just unfortunate in the final. Like
we probably peaked. We probably peaked in the semi-final.
In the semi, yeah.
And look, no different than anyone else. Every club had injuries, but look, there's no getting away from it. Bowen was a massive loss to us outfield. Look, some games you can get away with it, but it probably outed us in the final. Really, I think Eddie and Marie reiterated to this in the commentary, and they said, look, it gives you that false sense of security. And look, we were gunning the retaining. I can tell you that now from the lads. Like, it wasn't the case of, you know, we'll see how it goes. Like, we did, once we got on a few games, we were back in to win, you know. But look, at that sport for you, you don't always get the rub of the green. But look, it probably taught us a lesson that you definitely need a big squad, in my opinion. And that's something like that'll be our next protocol, looking to improve that. You should have a fella that can step in at any day and do the same as the fella who goes out, and that's not always easy to get that, but we'll keep on looking.
Yeah. Like this year, we've entered a ladies team and we've entered a mixed team as well.
So then, does that mean, so you have the ladies and you have the mix? So is senior ladies and senior mix title on the cards for the next 4 or 5 years?
Not putting the spot at all there, Ronan.
Let's get them out in the pitch first.
Yeah, that's it. It's like everything else, isn't it? We said, yeah, well, I'll play next Sunday, no bother at all, and then it's like, oh God, I think I might have work to do. I can't make that game, and like I've been there. Like I know the story with that too. Like, but I think there's enough depth in them that you can at least we get games played there this year. Anyway, that's for sure.
So, lads, before you go, I want one piece of advice that you both have for a new team or new club starting off. So, Ronan, we might go to you first. What's the one thing, if you're like, okay, well, whatever you do, you really should look at doing this?
Look, I'll be straight up and honest. I went and I had a look at our Holland team playing, and by luck, I seen two of the lads, and I went to the two of them. And he said, look, lads, would you be interested in giving this a go? And I think you need to be going for a lad that's 17, 18, 19 at the start and get him in before he's playing Everton under the sun. And we were lucky enough, we got them lads in, Paddy, we got them lads in, and they wanted to play for us as much as they wanted to play anything else. And we were fit to get them up to speed at all the other parts of the game when they were young fellas, and that made such a difference. You played against both of them now. Like, they were a sure thing for getting outs for us every game, even if we were being hammered. They were nearly getting the 3 outs for us in most of the games.
Colin, what would your piece of advice for new club be?
Well, there are probably 2 pieces of advice there that I'd be giving. The first thing is, we'll say when Ronan started up, Ronan was doing everything. He was doing the team sheets, he was doing the training, he was doing the whole lot. You can't enjoy yourself and give yourself the time to play the game if you're caught up in doing all that. Like, in fairness, I suppose for a couple of years we might have landed half an hour before a game and we'd have to fill in all the sheets and the whole lot. And I think one of the days Ronan was away on holidays, I filled it in. Like, I think we were playing Cavan that year. I filled it in. I said, "Jeez, this lunatic is coming to games. He's filling in all this stuff. He's doing everything. He's communicating with all the clubs now. In fairness, he's probably doing a lot of communicating with all the clubs still. But you need. It sounds stupid there now. You need someone doing the office work. Like every club, football or hurling, everyone else that to have the backroom staff. Like, it's not, you don't need 20 people doing it. You need someone that'll say, yeah, I'll take on with that. Leave that stuff with me. I'll fill in the team sheets. I'll do the subs. I suppose that's what Roland's alluding to too when he's saying that at the beginning there'd no one to answer to. Like, like who's going to say, right, well, I'm going to put on a sub, and then we'll say Paddy, or no, I'll not say Paddy because you think I'm talking about him. But Roland says, oh, well, I'm not going off because I'm playing great. You know what I mean? But might have dropped 20 balls. But I suppose then the other thing then too is, as a team, you need to be able to communicate. Like, everybody needs to know what they're at before the batter comes in, when the batter comes in. You need to have a line of communication that everybody can understand. Like, you have the pitcher and the backstop. To me, they're running the show. Like that, to me, the pitcher, the backstop tells the pitcher where he wants the ball, what he wants to do. They're in sync, and then everybody else falls into it from that. But that's my feeling. Like,
right, lads, I just want to say thanks a million for coming on, and hopefully, some of the new clubs can kind of take some of the things that you've said there and implement them, and maybe we'll be looking at brand new clubs coming through winning senior championships. I mean, Meath did it in the ladies football, coming up through the ranks, so like we could very easily see the same in rounders. But thanks a million.
No bother. Ronan's number there, don't forget to put it up on through the whole thing. He's taking calls to help set up new teams like yourself, Darryl. He loves it.
Yeah, no problem. We'll put it in the comment section below.
No, thanks a million.